to the cloud. Recording in progress. Thank you.
Continue.
Hello. Oh. Now, all these people enabling live transcription, because if you're like me, you can't hear if you can't read. It's special. All right, friends, we are slowly getting started. There are about 37 folks registered with us today, but 5 of us are here, so we'll give just a little buffer. But yeah, we can hold some general space for the moment. How's everybody doing? Doing okay? Sweet, sweet.
Yeah,
I know Amani and I were just
early where I am on a Saturday, so like
yeah, same.
Like
that's true. Toss into the chat. What time zone are you in? Or you can also use your voice if you'd rather do that.
Mountain.
It's 6 p.m. here. I'm having a beer.
Nice, jealous.
I've got one on the way actually. My fiance is picking me one up, so yeah, 6 p.m. as well.
Cheers, James.
Nice. I've got my morning coffee. It's 10 a.m. here.
Well, tea.
Yes. It's very smoky here. I live in northern Nevada, and the sky is hazy with smoke. So that's fun.
Yeah. I'm in southern Utah, so not too far away. And yeah, yesterday when I got in the car, I was like, are my glasses dirty? Like, what? What is happening? No, it's haze.
True. It's just haze. Well, friends, I want to be mindful of your time and trust that as people pepper in, they will find their way into our space. Also acknowledging this is being recorded so that anyone who has registered but wasn't able to attend live can watch back, get a little introduction to this Knight-Thompson Speechwork stuff. I made slides, so I'm going to show slides real quick, and I'll come in and out of those. There's our little introduction. Welcome to KTS with Cabral and Amani Dorn. I am Cabral, as you can see right there in the corner of my little square here. I am a certified teacher of Knight-Thompson Speechwork and Fitzmaurice voice work. I'm the professor of voice and movement at the University of Nevada in Reno. And what year did I certify in KTS? 2019, I think it was. I think I was group 5. Amani, tell us a little about yourself.
That's so funny because I always forget that like we are reverse in Fitzmaurice and KTS certification, time-wise. Yes. I'm in the process of my Fitzmaurice certification. I got certified in Knight-Thompson Speechwork in 2017. Which seems so long ago now. I'm currently dialect coaching at Utah Shakespeare Festival, but in a few days I'll be back in Atlanta.
Yes. All over the place. And that's the thing too, you will find KTS teachers and KTS aficionados. Aficionades? Can you ungender aficionado?
Officiads.
Officiads. I like it.
Or I guess we could just change it like officials.
Oh, I like it. But yeah, you'll find folks who enjoy this work all over the world. So today we've got a little introduction into the work lined up for you. But we also would love to know who's in this room with us. So we're going to do some quick introductions. And I was planning on having these in the chat, but since there are only 6 of us, we can totally come on voice if you would like to. No one will be required to do so. So for our introductions, I'd love to know your name, your pronouns, if you choose to share those. Land acknowledgement, that can be basic as your geographical place, or if you know the ancestral land you're on, that would be awesome to hear. And then what is your artistic identity? So for me, my name is Adi Cabral. I use they, them pronouns. I'm zooming in from the ancestral, current, and future lands of Washoe, Shoshone, and Paiute tribes, colonially known as Reno, Nevada. And artistically, I am a dialect coach, intimacy director, actor, multi-hyphenate, as many of us are. Let me highlight this, put it into the chat. Oh, that's not gonna work. Try again. I can do it. I can. Ha! Stop sharing. And then open the space for, whoa. I just want to show you how that all just copied. It did it backwards somehow.
Oh, it did like a
It did a mirror, like fully backwards. That has never happened before.
Oh.
I don't know. That was really weird. I think my PDF's in the upside down. So we've got name, pronouns, land acknowledgement, and artistic identity. Bam.
That is the coolest thing and weirdest thing I've ever seen.
I know. Isn't it?
Like, I want to know more.
I don't know why it did that. Maybe it's a security thing that's like, don't steal from my PDF.
You should be able to steal from your own PDF, though.
I should.
Anywho, I'm Amani. I'm in Utah. I'm very close to Adi. I'm a she, her, hers, but fine with them, theirs. It's all fine with me. Sorry, I got so distracted. Okay, so yeah, Utah, close to Adi. And part of that land acknowledgement for me this week is the state holiday is this weekend of Utah, which is called Pioneer Day. And I feel strange about that. I don't know why they need 2 holidays in Utah where you set off fireworks, but there are fireworks during Pioneer Day. So that's good. And artistically, actor, dialect coach, dancer, teacher, that whole thing.
Love it, love it. Rather than calling anybody out, if you'd like to share, go ahead and come on mic.
Hi guys, can you guys hear me actually?
Yeah.
Hi, yeah, I'm on my phone. I'm fostering a puppy and she chewed my computer charger. So I have to go buy one later.
Oh, no.
I know. I'm like, out of all the things you could have chewed, you chewed my computer charger. But I'm Sophia. I'm based in LA. You know, I'm Colombian. I don't know about my ancestors so much, but I'm Colombian, born in Miami. I go by she, her, and I'm an actress. And that's it.
I'll jump in then. I'm James, he, him. I live in Chiswick. For those of you who are from the UK, that's in West London. However, hoping to buy my first property in just north of London. And I've always lived in London, so that would be fun. I don't know the land. I don't know much about the history of this particular spot, other than it didn't used to be in London, and then London grew, and it now is. Artistic identity, I am an actor. I teach stage combat, which is nice and fun. I also teach kind of, accent / dialect coaching, and I know there's a difference in the UK and American how we phrase and kind of define that, but I'm not entirely sure about that difference. Bits and bobs, and I've been private tutoring kids for the last 13 years. So that's my prime kind of income, but I'm an actor and I must state that I'm an actor to believe it and to make it real.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us, James.
I can go. I'm Christopher. I use he, him pronouns. I live in Massachusetts, a little bit outside the Boston area, which I know was ancestrally the Massachusetts tribe, though the extent of their lands, I'm not entirely sure where my town falls. And I'm a dialect coach, actor. I'm also a historical interpreter. I am involved with that, and I try to combine all three. And I've been doing a bit of a passion project the last few years of trying to do reconstructed historical accents for performances and playing around with that and seeing how that works. It's been a lot of fun to play around with that. So
that's awesome. Thank you, Christopher. Go for it, Nancy. You feel like
I'm going.
Like that.
Not very. I think
almost.
there's something a bit British about like, oh, is it my turn yet? I am Nancy. I am based in London. I go by she, her, and we're not very. The land acknowledgement is something that is quite unfamiliar territory. This is not a norm for us, I don't think. So I'm not really sure what. I live in East London, so factory land and market traders, I suppose. And I teach accents and dialects. I mostly one-to-one and also some drama school work. And I just finished a 3-week masterclass with Catherine Fitzmaurice. So I'm really thrilled to hear that you all tutors. Yeah, it was so nice. She was amazing. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you, Nancy. And Molly, I saw you came on mic for a moment.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Molly. I go by she, her pronouns. I am in Houston, Texas right now, which was the indigenous land, I looked this up, of the Akokisa tribe in the 19th century. I am an actor, I'm a dialect coach, and I'm a teacher, and I'm very excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you, Molly. Madeline, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, y'all. My name is Madeline, she, her. I'm in Pittsburgh just for the last couple of weeks, so I just looked it up, and it is the Seneca peoples, and I am an actor and singer.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you all so much for being with us and for sharing your introductions. And thank you, Nancy, for pointing out too that the land acknowledgements is a relatively US concept in introductions and meeting starts. And yeah, I'm still curious about like, what was London before it was London?
Right. And it's still relatively new to the US because in Canada,
yeah,
they've been honoring those lands for, I don't know how long. How long has Canada been like nice? So, but I also had another question off of what James was saying, which is the terminology, accent, dialect. There's a way that I describe it, but the way I describe it.
Go for it.
Well, no, you describe it. No, I'll describe
okay.
it. Okay, the way that I describe it is accent is the way that you speak in a language that isn't native to yours or that isn't native to the person who is playing the character. And dialect is the way that you speak in a regional or specific sense in your native language.
Now, I would actually look at the two terms as one being an umbrella and one being a specific detail. So dialect, as I've learned it, is an umbrella term that covers vocabulary, pronunciation, musicality, social class. All of these things are put into dialect, and accent by itself is mainly focused on the sounds, the pronunciation and the prosody. So whenever the dialogue and the actual words being chosen comes into play, then I call myself a dialect coach. When I'm literally only focusing on pronunciation and musicality, then I say I'm an accent coach. If I want to get that specific, or I'll just say I'm a dialect coach because it's what I do. But yeah, one of the, I think it was in, for those that don't know the track of KTS teaching offerings, they offer 2 6-day intensives and 1 3-day phonetics intensive. The 2 6 days are experiencing speech and experiencing accents. And in experiencing accents is really where we break down what is dialect, what is accent, what is idiolect, what is basilect, what is acrolect, what is sociolect. And all of those terms are based on like, what is the individual identity? What is the class structured accent or class structured dialect that comes about? So if you want to do the nerdy deep dive into those, I definitely recommend the experiencing accents intensive. I want to ask, did that clear anything up for you, James? But I also realized that we punched a lot of stuff in there.
No, sure, it does. It does absolutely. There's all, you know, when I was taught, when I trained, that my tutor would call herself an accent teacher, and her definition was quite. She was brilliant. She was incredible, but her definition was probably quite narrow in the sense that I didn't need to know any more than that at the time. But as I'm advancing, I probably don't now need to. And she just said, in the UK, you call it accents. In America, you call it dialects. That's what she said. But it's nice to hear your perspective, and I completely take that on board. It's useful.
Awesome. Yeah. So for today, we have a little bit of an agenda. So I'll share you that image real quick. Some things that we're hoping to do today. We definitely want to experience the vocal tract. That's a huge component of this work. We'll do some sumnish into some text. We'll explain what that means as we get there. I'm going to share some resources with you if you want to dive even further, expand your learning in these areas. Talk a little bit about standards. What are some principles perhaps that Knight-Thompson Speechwork proposes? I'll do a little bit of demo time between Amani and myself, and then some show and tell around like, how do you approach utilizing IPA? How do we teach it in the classroom, and how do we, why do we do it? And then of course, time for Q&A. Along with that agenda, I want to share, and this comes from Nicole Brewer's Anti-Racist Theater, just some session agreements to hold us within this space. If we are sharing anything personal, speak from the I. Let's try not to generalize experiences. Take care of yourself. You are a human. If you need to go off camera for some reason, the dog is deciding to chew through your phone now. Take care of yourself. Stop that dog from chewing your phone. We can hold this space with one another by speaking and listening in draft. That means we can still be working things out. We don't have to be perfect in the moment. We can respect the agenda, but hold it lightly. If we don't get to all of our points today, that's okay. They still exist in the world. Everyone's truth is valid, just as how Amani defined dialect versus accent and how I define dialect versus accent. They don't replace one another. They both exist and they're both valid. And finally, what is learned here leaves here. But if anything personal is shared here, let's let that stay here in the room. So those are some of the session agreements that I'd like for us to hold today as we dive in. So for our first thing, we're going to do some experiencing of the vocal tract. And we're going to break this down into 3 different exercises, different areas. Silence into sound, gurning into thonging, and obstructing. So let me close that, and we're going to come in here and play. Okay. Yes, I'm going to follow Amani's impulse there. Let's go ahead and find a little bit of looseness into our bodies. And probably find some openness through your vocal tract. If that starts with like a beautiful big yawn like Chris just had.
Like a nice professional yawn.
Oh yeah.
Are we still calling
we
it
get paid to
professional
yawn. I still do, yes.
Yeah, like
There's
tongue
like
root,
the
like pulled back, soft palate up, lots of space.
I love it. And some of us are already finding sound through that. I like to call these sounds of pleasure. It feels good. It feels good to move our bodies, whether it's 6 p.m. or 10 a.m. Moving your body and opening your vocal tract. It's just plain nice.
Yeah. I call them fluffy sounds, like cushiony, like I'm in a bed.
Like a little pillow. And so, as we're navigating this vocal tract, I'm going to play with this idea of silence to sound. First, by finding an open jaw position, feeling your vocal folds apart from one another, and just sensing respiration moving in and out through your larynx. I like to use visuals. So for me, my vocal folds are kind of like this right now. Air is just passing through them freely, no sound. Then I might slowly get them to kind of come together just a little bit.
Little friction.
We can hear that little breath pass. And if I bring them just gently ever closer, still not into full adduction, might get a little creakiness as they irregularly vibrate together.
Just to clarify, Addie, we're unvoiced, correct? This is just
I'm voicing there.
You're voicing?
I'm actually adding a little bit of voice. Yeah. Because for me, to be able to articulate the space from breathy voice into creaky voice requires a little bit of extra vibration.
Mm-hmm.
I know, that's a good question. Are you doing it a different way?
I was doing it unvoiced and just increasing the pressure. So from to still unvoiced.
Yeah.
But,
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's add that one in and then we'll go to mine. So we'll do it as a 5-step. I usually do it as a 4, but I like it. So coming back to that unvoiced space with that exhalation, constricting down a little bit as we bring the folds together. So now with that added pressure, you can hear a little bit more of that turbulence. Yeah. And then adding in some of that voicing
produces a frequency of its own.
Yeah.
Like a semblance of its own.
I love it. It's your perfect grudge voice if you need to be in a horror movie. Fabulous. And then what happens if those vocal folds come together in a lovely little balance? So again, we've increased that air pressure out to help bring those vocal folds a little closer together.
I also have to remind myself to not smile while I do this because I need to keep my jaw relaxed, but I find the sound so pleasant that I'm like, yeah. But keeping that jaw relaxed, just letting it flow. Really,
I love it. Let's take that tour again, and we're going to do it a little bit quicker. We're going to move from silent respiration to breathy respiration to creaky breath to creaky voice to fully phonated. Yeah? So I'm going to stay down here. Here are my open vocal folds. Amani, that wasn't an open vocal fold.
I was smiling.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Would this be done on one exhalation or just as many as you need to get through it? Or is that a later step?
You can.
Okay.
Yeah. I think building coordination, if you want to start increasing the rigor of the exercise, totally bring it down to one breath and see, can I move from all in one path to build coordination? Sure. I love it. We'll do it step by step, and then I think let's do it in one breath. We'll go silent respiration, breathy respiration, creaky breath, creaky voice, and full phonation. Nice. Then let's do Chris's challenge here. Do it all in one breath, moving from silent to breath to creaky voice to fully phonated. Let's go. I love that the face wants to come along for the ride. Like, I'm so proud of myself. Look at what I just did. I love it. And so for me, one of the reasons why I love exploring the silence into sound and introducing it to my undergraduate theater actors is to kind of break this myth that I know our high school students have been hearing a lot about the value of vocal fry. Socially, we have been taught that vocal fry is a bad thing. It's a bad trait. It's ugly. It's all of these negative terms. But creaky voice is a function of something that you can do and something that you can do healthily. It includes increased air pressure. It includes irregular vibratory patterns in the vocal folds. There's nothing inherently unhealthy related to it. There are ways of doing it effectively and ways of doing it ineffectively. Similarly to, are you going to use a silent respiration in every speech that you give? Probably not. That would be weird. But if you're doing some voiceover work and your voice director's like, I need you to stop inhaling so damn loud, then maybe I need to start practicing that silent breath. I need to work on that. I love it. And it's, you know, for any of us that do singing work as well, there's a hot debate in the classical world about breathy inhalation and silent inhalation. That contemporary music wants to demand breathy inhalation so that we can hear a little bit of the effort, we can hear a little bit of that tone. But classical voice doesn't want it because we want an open vocal tract before I start to act, before I start to go into this. So knowing that all 5 of these are options, I think gives us more access to our full toolbox. I teach speech, y'all.
Yeah, and that's also
Every
really
time I say
interesting
it.
to play with, like ingressive versus egressive voice sounds.
Yeah.
Because
Can you describe that a little more for us, Amani?
yeah, so well, what you were describing in the singing, when you take that breath and you hear it, so it's like so there's like some vibration that happens on the intake of breath. And I certainly have had many classical teachers who have said, that's not good. Don't do that. Okay. And you cannot do that. Great option. You can do, fine. But it is useful to know the anatomy of what's happening when you are, especially when you're emoting while you're singing, which you probably are because you're an artist, and telling a story, that there is a way to do that healthily. To be aware of it so you aren't catching yourself off guard with it, but it's part of the whole apparatus. It's part of the whole vibration moving forward and back. And I think it can be done quite healthily if you're aware of it.
Absolutely. Well, and there's also an added benefit to ingressive vocal vibration. Let's try it first, and then I'll explain what it's doing for us beneficially. So as gently or as strong as you would like to explore, go ahead and find some inhalation that has phonated inwards breath, sort of like So one of the great things about ingressive vocalizations, I can already feel it in my throat. When we normally speak with egressive vocalizations, our vocal folds are coming together and vibrating top first and rolling up. So there's a bottom layer of our vocal folds that aren't getting that initial reaction, that aren't getting an initial hit. But when we do ingressive vocalization, the bottom comes into contact first and vibrates in the opposite direction. And so one of the things that that does is warming up both sides, both directions of the top and bottom layers of the vocal folds, allows them to come together more fully. It's similar to the benefits of semi-occluded vocal tract exercises or humming through a straw. The back pressure that humming through a straw does forces the vocal folds to come together a little bit more fully, so that when you remove the straw, more of the musculature is active. So one of my favorite things to do, especially when I'm navigating a song that's a little higher than I might be comfortable with, I'll explore it ingressively first so that I can feel more full attack on it, and then go for it with egressive breath. And again, that's one of those things that I wouldn't have thought about if I didn't take this time to explore silence into sound. Without language, without shaping of consonants or vowels or anything like that, what sounds are possible in this instrument? Yeah. Since I started talking about shaping, want to start shaping?
Shaping, and what sounds are possible, Adi?
Right? Everything's possible. So one of the things that I love about Knight-Thompson Speechwork is how so much of it is rooted in experiencing and exploring and just discovering, really trying to take value of sounds out of the work and just take an inventory of, no, what's there, what's possible. And one of the things that we use to explore that is called gurning. How many of you have heard the word gurn or gurning before? Yes. Oh, sweet. Okay, great.
I got second place my year, so.
Did you?
I did. I do a mean
You
gurn.
didn't do a competition. Brilliant. So we're going to do some gurning here. And for all intents and purposes, we can let our gurning just be a full exploration of what can you do with your face, including your jaw, lips, tongue, eyes, nose, all of this thing. Let's go ahead and do it in silence first and just take a fun little inventory of what can stretch, what can compress, what can go in asymmetry. One of our teachers of KTS described it recently as, what if the right side of your face and the left side of your face got into a wrestling match with one another? And then what if the top half of your face got into a wrestling match with the bottom half of your face? I love it. Brilliant, brilliant gurns recorded for all eternity. Amani, why do we do this? What does gurning do for us?
It does so much for us. First of all, just as an exploration, it's hilarious. So it helps us not take ourselves too seriously. But it also opens up areas of your face and your vocal tract that you might not usually have access to on a daily basis. A lot of us have an oral posture or a way that we speak that is pretty set in one kind of place. So exploring the musculature of what else is possible is going to open up the world of what sounds are possible. And it's not just going to be the sounds that like, okay, A equals A, B equals B, C equals C. It's like there are sounds that you're capable of making that you've never made in your language. And I'm sure we'll get to that next, is voicing through the gurning, is finding access to sounds that we don't exercise on a daily basis. And that opens up our whole realm of what is possible for us in our speech work and dialect work.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think you framed that in a perfect way. And a perfect lead in into exactly what we're going to do next. So I'm going to play us some royalty-free music so that our video doesn't get blocked on YouTube again. And we are going to go into some gurning and then add some sound into it as you move through your gurn. Then when I pause the royalty-free music, I want you to hold your face in whatever gurn you've landed in and see what kind of sustainable sound comes out of that face, that body, that character. And then maybe we'll share those sounds around the room and maybe try talking through that little gurn phase.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
As we're gurning, are we focusing on thongs, vowels, or are we also introducing obstruents?
As we are gurning, our focus is on thongs and vowels. So we're not trying to, it's more of like, I'm doing V's and M's in here. These are consonants. And then if you were to freeze in one of those places, what sort of thong-ish thing are you getting? And we'll define a thong in a moment. But here's our jazzy Frenchy music provided from bensound.com. I have to break my gurn to speak to you. Does anybody want to try to share their sound with us? I love it. Go ahead and let your face go. You're like, oh no, I'm stuck here now.
No, I'm like, because I love it so much. This is the thing with the smiling. I'm just like, sounds are the best. And then I start
Sounds are just so
smiling.
much
I'm like,
fun.
how do I get back?
Absolutely. And you know, one of the, if you need immediate gratification, one of the spaces where I will literally use that practice in my work is if I am doing voiceover work and need to find a new character and like can't sit and intellectualize the character. I'll do a gurn, freeze somewhere, see what sound comes out. Here's where I am. It is not to explore how does that particular character actually carry out the full conversation. Then I'm not thinking about like, oh yes, I am going to adjust my jaw to the right. I am going to lift my tongue up against my right molars. I'm going to retract my right risorius muscle. Like, well, no, I'm going to play. I'm going to find a character, and then I'm going to see if it works.
Yeah. I like, not necessarily in voiceover work, but when I'm working with dialect clients, I call it a palate cleanser.
Yes.
When you've been like working very hard on the structure of a dialect and it's like, this is the oral posture and you've like worked all that out. And it's just really useful to just like, let it out. And then it just like happen. And then once you release that, like something else that is easier and more productive usually happens than like continuing to like grind down the gears of make your jaw here, make your tongue here. Like we all need a palate cleanser.
Absolutely.
Gurn's the perfect palate cleanser.
And it really is. And again, that discovery and taking inventory of what do we have access to. Sometimes sitting with a client, let's say that their first language utilizes a 5-vowel system. We have E, A, A, O, U. And I need them to find I, the vowel in kit. And they're like, I don't hear it. I don't know where that is. Instead of just sitting there and hunkering down and being like, I, I,
I. Do you hear me? I.
Do I. Instead, we can say, let's gurn it out. We're going to take a little tour. I can add some barriers onto it and say, let's see what happens if we just raise and lower the tongue really slowly in the front of the mouth. Again, we can use more exploratory methods of finding a sound that they might not have immediate access to because it doesn't exist in their first language, rather than E. E. Good enough.
Got it.
Yeah. Brilliant. Well, and so Amani asked a moment earlier if we were focusing mainly on thonging or obstructing. So thong is just a fun, happy word that we like to use in Knight-Thompson Speechwork to describe vowels. Because the difference between vowels and consonants versus thongs and obstruents is that vowels versus consonants is really an orthographic term. That A, E, I, O, U are letters that we know to be vowels. Vowel doesn't describe the sound that they can make. And same thing with consonant. Consonant are letters, they don't describe what am I doing in terms of speech actions. So phthongs, we've already used part of this, or we've used this word in parts of other words, diphthongs. So Dudley Knight was just like, what if we call them thongs for now? So those thongs are, if you can have an open vocal tract that is shaped rather than obstructed, we're going to end up with thongs. But they're continuous, or they can be continuous. Nothing is stopping or redirecting the airflow. Now, instead of calling the other part of our language consonants, Dudley refers to them as obstruents, something that obstructs the airflow. or redirects or momentarily obstructs and moves the airflow. So we're going to go back into our gurn again, and this time I want you to see what can you close and open, what can redirect, what sort of actions are available to you with this whole gurnable mechanism. And let's do it with this song.
Question.
Yeah.
Now that we're introducing obstruents, voiced or unvoiced?
Yes.
Great.
Yeah, I think in the small amount of time we have left, all is available to you.
Beautiful. Nga.
Love it. I love it.
That was the
So
deepest conversation we've
what I'm blushing. It was very it was delightful. I
I
feel
saw
like it was
the
a
scene.
little
I know where we are and I'm ready.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So in that same way that we might use the gurning into thonging to find vowels that we might not usually have access to, we do the same thing with gurning into obstruents. I might be able to explore something other than pa, ta, ka, ba, da, ga. Yes, great, those are part of your inventory, but what else? What else is possible? And so we can obstruct that sound to explore. What sort of things can I do? Can I stop and explode? Can I make a sound through my nose? Can I roll through something? It's the international symbol for roll, I guess.
I love that. And what did, for stop plosives, what did Phil say one time? One cannot plode something less you stopped it. Which was adorable.
It's true. It's very true. If it's not stopped, it's not ploded. It's tapped.
Can't plode it unless you, yeah.
So the other thing that we were starting to explore there, because it was relatively impossible, did you find that you were able to only obstruct, or were there thongs kind of peppered in there as you were gurning? Right, there were thongs happening along the way, which is great. So what we started to kind of find ourselves into, oh, I pressed the wrong button. Let's go back here. Blah. Was exploring somnish and outlandish. So these terms are things that we'll use in exploring what if we just make every sound that's available to us. Go ahead and take a moment to introduce yourself off mic. Don't do it in your language, but do it with every sound you think is possible with this part of your body. Some of us probably felt, oh, it's like gibberish. Yeah, gibberish is a dialect of outlandish. We can find that in there. But outlandish might also have things that you wouldn't use for speech, like
There is actually an IPA symbol for that.
yeah.
And it's actually a circle with 2 dashes. It looks like a pig snout.
Oh, perfect. This is my nerdy confession. My favorite IPA symbol is the circle with a dot in it.
That one's so good.
It's so cute.
I think it's second best too.
Oh no, now that I know there's a pig snout symbol for snorting, second favorite. I love it.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So between outlandish and say omnish, I know we're skipping to somnish, but what would be the difference to you? Because we've been talking about.
Yeah. So for me, the difference between outlandish into omnish is that outlandish includes every possible action that you can do with this instrument. Omnish would be a collection of every possible sound that has been used for language. So it's a little bit more reduced. If I were to look at, because the isn't on the regular IPA chart, I would have kept that in outlandish until now that I know that there is literally a symbol for it. But yeah, that's the separation.
But you wouldn't necessarily consider that a speech sound. Like it's not a language sound. But if you're transcribing something and you're doing narrow transcription and someone says blah, 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 and then do, then that would be, you could transcribe it, but that doesn't mean that it lives within language per se.
Yeah. That's a good question. I just don't know. I don't know what of the, is that in the irregular IPA?
Yeah.
I don't know what in the I don't know what in the irregular IPA isn't used in language. So I think the difference too is between outlandish and omnish. So outlandish is, or can be, meaningless. It's when you add intention onto something that I feel it becomes omnish. If they're just sounds for sound's sake, that's outlandish to me. But when it's the act of trying to communicate moves it out of outlandish and into omnish. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. So then what is somnish?
So then somnish, I think, is even more reduced from omnish. So I might say, let's only use plosives and thongs. Bada ke tisho, nope, that's not a plosive.
Pa,
Kage,
Hekiko,
dibo,
Dita,
kega,
Dita Pupa.
dita pupa.
Dita Pupa.
So that would be, to me, somnish. Somnish is taking all that's possible and just using some of it. So if I were to share a little monologue with you all real quick. Oh, where'd she go? Up here, down here. If I were to share, I'm going to share in just a moment, some text of a monologue from Mark Twain's The SARS Soliloquy. I've edited gender out of the monologue because it was very masculine focused. But so we're going to see some words on the page here in a moment. And what would happen if you only made obstruent sounds, no thongs? That might be an accent of somnish. Obstruentees. Let's give it a try. I'm just going through that, skipping past any vowel sounds and just playing with what are the obstruents available to you. How's that going for everybody? It's fun. It's hard.
I am having a great time right now.
Right?
This is how
And
we
how
create.
quickly can you go through it too?
You know,
and
it's
then
tricky.
what if you swapped it? Oh yeah.
It's tricky because when we're just working on plosives, but we're like you lean towards unvoiced plosives because that leads you into phthongs.
Yeah.
So that's just interesting that we end up with this. So like, you know, like,
Yeah.
that's cool. I'm
No,
into
absolutely. I love it too. And that when you do a voiced consonant, like in that second word right there, we get a lovely voiced d. How do you make a d without too much of a thong to follow? You can't unvoice. I mean, you can unvoice an N. But we don't use it in language because it doesn't do anything. Well, and so with that, let's try the other side. Let's go through that text and only use the thongs. My lovely little discovery in there trying to do that is there's one consonant or one obstruent that I'm constantly doing to make these thongs happen. Are you doing 3? Or are you saying
No,
W?
I was saying W. That was my guess.
No, that's not the obstruent that I'm doing.
Oh.
E, E. I'm using glottal stops as my obstruent to move between these that I didn't realize I was doing until literally just now.
That is so funny because I have been using W's and Y's, which are in that like weird category of sometimes they're like a vowel and sometimes they're like not. And so I'm like, wow, why? So I'm not stopping anything, but like I'm using those W's and Y's to like move through from one thong to the next.
Yeah. Gotta love our little phono tactics. How do you move? Oh, whoa, where did this go? Brilliant, brilliant. So that's our little exploration of what do we have available to us? How might I put it into sounds, into text? We can do stuff like that using focus just on the obstruents, focus just on the thongs, or you can start like substituting. What if we move all of your thongs into the E space? Start to get into accent work, right? start to get into some shaping outside of what your patterns might be.
Or like, what if all of your ing words, instead of being voiced, are unvoiced at the end? So instead of thinking, we're thinking.
I like thinking. Everything is fun. I love it. I love it. We are having so much fun that we're not checking the time. So
I did check the time, but I also didn't want to make the time end.
It's all good. So this next slide I want to share with you real quick is just some resources to look into. I cannot copy and paste these into the chat for you, as I have learned. But a couple books definitely to check out if you do not have a copy of them already are Dudley Knight's Speaking with Skill and Experiencing Speech, a skills-based panlingual approach to actor training. Yes, look at these in our inventory.
This is not me, just so you know.
This is not you.
It's not me, but she's really pretty.
But both of those texts are fantastic. The Speaking with Skill goes into great detail about the musculature of the face, gives you really specific exercises to try. Again, talks about the pedagogy of the work and why we're doing more exploratory rather than prescriptive approaches to the work. Of course, the Knight-Thompson Speechwork website is useful both for finding events like this one, future webinars, their intensives that they offer, but also the blog on the Knight-Thompson Speechwork website. Sometimes people will ask really specific questions about transcription. Do I, as an actor, need to know how to do IPA transcription? Let's have a conversation about it. Rather than me giving you a didactic answer, let's be a little more dialectic about it. Here are the benefits. Here are the frustrations.
You're landing on one of my favorite things about Knight-Thompson Speechwork is that it's options, like human-based options.
Yes.
It's not like this is right, this is wrong. It's exploring everything that's possible and what can fit in the world that you're trying to create. And that's what I think is really cool, creatively, and also very accessible.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's that inventory. It's what do I have access to that I can choose to use. Right? I'm not going to go to every single human and say, you should only use Stanislavski. For some of us, sure, that's great. For others of us, we might be like, no, thank you. I'm going to try something else. Finally, there's a lovely article. I think this is in the 2017 Voice and Speech Review, an article that Phil, Andrea, and Eric wrote about the foundations of Knight-Thompson Speechwork. I encourage you to check those things out. The last things on our docket. Oh, we wanted to talk a little bit about standards real quick. What's the standard, Amani? Yes.
My top standard that I take away from Knight-Thompson Speechwork is no value judgment. So good, bad, nice, pretty, ugly, gross, inappropriate, appropriate, fancy, not like we all have this at our disposal. But I think part of what giving us all the access to all the sounds is that all the sounds are meaningful. So we're not taking away sounds from people. We're just adding more sounds, and they're all useful. So that's my first standard for Knight-Thompson is the sound that you're creating is not a value judgmentable thing.
I would agree with you. I think the only standard is fun. Are you enjoying what you're doing? If you're not enjoying it, why are you doing it? I think we've had some conversation in the past that one of the highest standards for us within this work is intelligibility. That at the end of the day, your goal is to make sure that you are understood with intelligibility. But you know, even intelligibility has some listener bias associated with it. I can talk like this and think that I'm being as intelligible as I can possibly be. And like, if you lean in, yeah, you can understand exactly what I'm saying. But if you listen to this voice and immediately say, oh no, that's not intelligible, then is that correct? Or is that your listener bias wishing for more precise, a more detailed, a more crisp voice?
Well, and I
You're
think that's
imparting
where
a
it comes
standard
back
on
to
me.
like, oh, sorry, I totally cut you off.
You're good,
I
you're
think
good.
that's where it comes back to like options though. How do we use everything at our disposal to accomplish the goal, which is to tell the story that we're trying to tell? So if I'm hanging out with my friends and we all speak the same way and we're like, and we all understand each other, then that is communication and there's nothing wrong with that. If we're in a theater and the fly space is really high and it swallows all your consonants, then we have the option of punching up the consonants. It's an option. It's not that that's the right thing to do. It's the thing to do to accomplish the goal of telling the story.
It's one of the things to do to
One
accomplish
of
the
the
goal of
things.
telling the story, right? Again, options, options, options. But yeah, I would say for me, those are the main standards: is have fun, know what's in your inventory, and be able to make that choice for yourself. What will be the most efficient choice to help you achieve your goal? Our last two bits of today were demo and show and tell. Amani and I already actually did the demo portion of what that was supposed to be. That was just omnish with one another in communication, and seeing what is it to just use sound to communicate. One of my favorite exercises in the acting classroom is to have, there's like an improv name for this game. I think it's translator or dubber.
Oh, dubbing. Yeah, it's dubbing.
I think it's dubbing. Yeah. So you'll have two actors and do a scene together fully in omnish, and have two people who are dubbing everything that they're saying into whatever language of your classroom. So they'll use tone and attitude and intention to take meaning from and try to share that back out with the classroom. So we really do get the sense of a hard fuck has a really specific meaning in the context of communicating with another person versus a
What did you mean? I don't know.
What did you mean?
No, I love that. And there's so many ways to play that game, like so many frameworks in which you can put it. I like putting it in a town hall meeting.
Yes.
Like a debate. And then having people dub the debate.
Oh, I've never dubbed the debate. That's smart. I just let the debate be what it is. Brilliant. So the one thing we didn't actually talk about very much here, which is a huge component of Knight-Thompson Speechwork, is transcription. How do we learn to write it out? Why do we learn to write it out? All of this good stuff. And I'll share one of the first things that I offer my students when we're stepping into the speech classroom and introducing the idea of phonetics. I show them this, just a little blank chart. It's not really blank. I just put little things on top of them because I couldn't find a real blank one. But so we start to look at this thing not for what are the symbols, because I think a lot of times when we look at symbols, we get overwhelmed that, oh, now I need to memorize a full alphabet. Now I need to know these new symbols, this new form of writing. And for me and for the actors that I'm training, it's not about memorizing the symbols. it's like Amani and I have just said about our standards. It's about knowing what you have available to you. When we look at this chart, it's telling me what are all of the places in my body, or in my mouth at least, where I can make, and throat, in my speech mechanism, that I can make a sound. And then what types of actions can I do in each of those places? And of course,
you know what
in those
sorry, I hate to interrupt, but it took me so long because I was so focused on the symbols and stuff. It wasn't until that I went through certification that I was like, oh, this is the shape of my mouth. It's a map. I see.
Yes. Exactly. This is our roadmap. If I were to ask you to make a sound with your soft palate, what would you do? I like it. I like it. You went a little farther back than your soft palate.
Okay, you're right. Guh. Fine.
Yeah, our little guh. They're all things that I might be able to do in that space. So again, in an effort of exploration, instead of asking my students right away, okay, give me a bilabial nasal continuant, and they look at me like, that's you? What did you just ask? I can say, just bringing your two lips together, let's explore what kinds of sounds you can make by bringing these two into contact with one another. And we'll end up finding all of these things. I have another version of this that I can't find anywhere right now, where I take off the names of the actions and I use emojis instead. So I'll use like the explosion emoji for a stop plosive. I'll use a little nose emoji for our nasal. And I use gestures for describing these things. So if this is stop it and explode it, and I can do that with my whole body, then maybe I can do that with a smaller part of my body as well.
I think you landed on something that is so crucial to this work, which is remembering that it's all a physical action. Because part of what made me tune into this work is that, you know, I did sports and dance, and like there are specific positions that you're supposed to be in. And this really explained it really well to me, like as a physical action, just in a smaller space. And that made things a lot more accessible to me, as opposed to, I want to get the sound right. I'm like, oh, okay, I'm gonna like go off a ski slope and be like, ring, and that's gonna be right.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that too, you can't rely only on sound, right? I'm gonna give you two sounds right now, and I want you to tell me which one is, what are the two?
Those nasals, they tricky.
They're both nasals, but like, could you tell which one was an M and which one was an N? No, not really.
Sure, but
You felt what?
I felt pretty sure, actually.
Well, yeah.
But I was probably wrong.
All I was doing was, If all we're doing is relying on the sound, I'm going to mess some things up. But if I can really focus on what is the physical action that's happening, I can get more detail and I can reproduce it, right? Especially when I'm working with people who are learning an accent that is different from their own, or working in a language that's different from their own. If there are sounds that are not immediately in your inventory, rather than doing the over and over again and being like, why can't you hear this? I can actually say, yeah, great, you have an E. Let's go to that E space and see what happens if we just relax a little bit off of it and shorten the sound. Do the fully tense, E, relax it. Eh, eh, eh. And then I can get into that space a little bit easier. Again, through the physical action, through the exploration, through what are all of my options. Because speech work should be fun. This isn't old school elocution where people were putting walnuts in their mouths and being hit with switches to be told to speak in a specific way. Here are all of the things that are possible to us. Let's use them.
Yeah. And I think that's a great thing about experiencing it in a physical way, as opposed to trying to listen to it, because as someone put it to me at some point, it was probably Phil, let's be real. You can't drive the car and watch yourself drive the car at the same time.
Yes.
And so much of this work we think of as being like, what does it sound like? But from the inside, what happens outside of my mouth by the time it gets to my ear is not an accurate representation of what is happening.
Absolutely.
And so I can't listen to myself and do the thing at the same time.
Yeah.
I have to know
Brilliant,
or feel confident in the physical position that I'm using and know that what comes out is going to be received. That's the point, right? It's not me communicating with myself. I'm communicating with people, I guess.
Zoom.
People, Zoom,
Your
my
dog.
dog.
Queso. I love your dog. Well, y'all, that is our introduction into Knight-Thompson Speechwork. We are a little bit over time, but we'd love to hold space for any Q&A time that you would like. So I'm also happy to stop the recording if you would feel more comfortable asking questions not recorded.
I think actually, yeah, I would, if that's okay, I'd prefer that. Not that my question is embarrassing, I think, just for that.
No,
no worries.
let's stop it. We're at the time. We talked about
Yeah, absolutely. For the good of the recording, thank you all for watching. Join us next time for teaching accessibly and creatively with Eric Armstrong, Elisa Gonzalez, and Tracy Moore. Stop recording.